The year was 2157, and humanity had spread throughout the solar system. There were colonies on Mars, mining operations on the moons of Jupiter, and research stations orbiting Saturn. Earth remained the center of human civilization, but people now looked to the stars with real hope instead of just dreams. Dr. Alan Wright yawned and sipped his coffee as he stared at the monitor. The Deep Space Monitoring Station near Pluto's orbit had been his idea. But after 3 years with nothing interesting to report, funding was in danger. He rubbed his tired eyes and prepared to log another uneventful shift when something on the screen caught his attention. "That's not right," he muttered, setting down his cup. The signal pattern was unlike anything he had seen before. Not random, cosmic noise. Not a pulsar's regular beat, and definitely not from any human source. Alan's heart raced as he ran the standard protocols for signal verification. "Lisa, I need you to look at this," he called over the intercom. Dr. Lisa Morgan arrived, within minutes. As the station's communications expert, she had developed new methods for analyzing complex signal patterns. Her eyes widened as she looked at Alan's screen. "Is this real?" she asked, already typing commands into the adjacent console. "Triple verified," Alan replied. "Whatever it is, it's artificial and coming from beyond our solar system." Lisa worked for hours analyzing the signal with every tool available. By morning, she had reached a stunning conclusion. "It's a message, Alan, and I think I can decode it." Within days, the news spread across Earth and its colonies. Humanity was not alone. The message was an invitation. The Galactic Council welcomed Earth to join the interstellar community. After centuries of wondering if anyone else was out there, humanity finally had its answer. 2 months later, a massive ship appeared at the edge of the solar system. Earth governments had been preparing frantically, establishing a unified response team led by Ambassador Jack Daniels, a calm, gray-haired diplomat known for his steady approach to crisis. "Remember," Jack told his team as they boarded the shuttle, "to the International Space Station Alpha, where the first meeting would take place. We represent all of humanity today. Not nations, not factions. All of us." Colonel Susan Ford, the military advisor assigned to Jack's team, looked less comfortable in her formal uniform than she did in combat gear. "I still think we should have more security," she said quietly. Jack smiled. "We need to show trust to receive it, Colonel." The aliens called themselves the Zorkath, representatives of the Galactic Council that governed relations between the 47 known sentient species in the Milky Way. Their leader, High Counselor Zix Tor, was tall with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Despite the universal translator technology they provided, something about his tone felt condescending. "Your species has achieved much in such a short time," Zixtor said during the formal greeting ceremony. "Most young races require guidance. For centuries before they manage controlled nuclear fusion, we've always been quick learners," Jack replied with a smile, though he noted how Susan tensed beside him. The initial meetings went well on the surface. The Zorkath shared information about faster-than-light travel, introduced Earth to galactic mapping systems, and explained how the Council maintained peace among diverse species. But Susan noticed troubling patterns. "They only answer certain questions," she told Jack during a private moment. "And have you seen how they look at us? Like we're children or pets." Jack had noticed too. "We need more information before making judgments. Let's see what happens." At the United Nations address tomorrow. The arrival of the aliens at the UN headquarters in New York caused worldwide sensation. Billions watched as Zixtor addressed humanity's leaders. "The galaxy is a complex place," the alien diplomat explained. "Many species with different needs and abilities must coexist. The Council provides structure and protection. Each species contributes according to their abilities and receives benefits according to their status." After the formal presentation, Jack and Susan attended a smaller reception where they met representatives from other species who had accompanied the Zorkath. Most seemed nervous when approached directly. A smaller alien with features resembling a cross between a fox and a lizard introduced himself as Vrel, from the Kailari species. Your world has much water, he commented, seeming to choose his words carefully. The Council values resources. We hope to share our resources through fair trade, Jack replied. Brell's eyes darted to check if any Zorkath were nearby. Yes. Trade. Of course. Later that evening, when Jack and Susan reported to the newly formed Earth Diplomatic Council, opinions were mixed. They've offered technology beyond our dreams, said Dr. Beth Williams, the science advisor. Their medical knowledge alone could eliminate disease as we know it. But at what cost? Asked General Peter Miller, representing Earth's Unified Defense Command. They're clearly hiding something. Over the following weeks, Earth established its first tentative trade agreements. Human art, music, and cultural artifacts proved surprisingly valuable to several alien species. Meanwhile, Earth received basic technological packages that, while carefully limited, still represented massive leaps forward. Lisa Morgan continued studying the aliens' communication patterns and language. There are inconsistencies, she told Alan one night as they worked late. When they discuss certain topics, resources, military capability, their governance structure, their language patterns shift. They're being deceptive. Alan shared her concerns. The scientific information the aliens shared was impressive but felt curated with obvious gaps. It's like they're giving us just enough to be useful, but not enough to really understand how their technology works. As Earth prepared to send its first official delegation to the Council hub station, Jack and Susan received their final briefing. Still know very little about how the Council actually operates, Jack admitted to the assembled world leaders. But this is our chance to learn more and establish humanity's place among the stars. Susan was more direct. Something isn't right. The Zorkath and other dominant Council species treat the rest like, well, not like equals. We need to understand the real power structure before we commit to anything. As they boarded the alien shuttle that would take them to the massive Zorkath vessel, Jack noticed how Zixtor and his assistants exchanged knowing looks when they thought humans weren't watching. Ready for this? Susan asked quietly. Jack adjusted his diplomatic sash and nodded. Ready or not, we're about to find out what the galaxy really thinks of humanity. The shuttle doors closed, and Earth grew smaller through the viewport as they ascended toward the stars and whatever awaited them among the civilizations of the galaxy. 6 months had passed since first contact. Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. New technologies appeared in hospitals and factories. Alien visitors became a common sight in major cities. The fear and wonder of those first days had faded into a cautious optimism. Ambassador Jack Daniels stood at the viewport of the Council transport ship, watching the massive Council hub grow larger. The structure was bigger than anything humans had ever built. A spinning wheel of metal and light that housed representatives from all 47 known sentient species. Impressive, isn't it? Colonel Susan Ford joined him at the window. Hard to believe we're the first humans to see this place. Jack nodded. I just wish I felt better about this meeting. The past months had revealed troubling patterns. Earth was treated as a curiosity, valuable for its resources and cultural artifacts, but not respected as an equal. Human diplomats were often excluded from important discussions. Questions about Council military forces were politely but firmly deflected. Any updates from home? Jack asked. Susan lowered her voice. Dr. Wright's team reports that the technology packages we've received are modified. They're giving us dumbed-down versions. And Lisa's findings? The same. The translation matrices show clear evidence of information filtering. Some concepts aren't being translated correctly on purpose. The ship docked with a gentle bump. A delegation of various aliens waited to escort them to their quarters. Jack recognized a few species they had met before. The fox-like Kilari, the tall crystalline Jexar, and of course the dominant Zorkath. Welcome to the hub, Ambassador, said the lead Zorkath official. The full council convenes tomorrow. Tonight there is a reception for all representatives. Their quarters were luxurious, but Jack noticed subtle security measures. The door controls were designed for Zorkath hands. The computer interface limited access to basic systems. They were honored guests, but not trusted ones. At the reception, Jack and Susan circulated carefully. The grand hall sparkled with light, reflecting off ornate decorations. Beings of all shapes and sizes mingled, though Jack noticed how they naturally grouped by status. "Try the blue drink," a voice said beside Jack. "It's the only one safe for human biology." Jack turned to see Vrel, the Kilari representative they had met on Earth. The fox lizard alien seemed nervous, eyes darting around the room. "Thank you for the advice," Jack said. "How have you been, Vrel?" "Managing, as we all do." Vrel's voice dropped lower. "Your species has made quite an impression. Not many newcomers established trade terms so quickly." Susan joined them, pretending to admire a floating sculpture nearby. "We're eager to find our place in the galactic community." Vrel's expression changed subtly. "Yes, everyone finds their place eventually." He glanced around again. "The Council has a very structured approach to galactic order." Before Jack could ask what he meant, a chime sounded. The High Counselor Zix Tor stood on a raised platform, his 4 arms raised for attention. "We welcome our newest potential members to the hub," he announced, gesturing toward the human delegation. "Tomorrow, Earth will learn of its formal status and responsibilities within our ancient order." The way he said responsibilities made Jack's skin crawl. Later that night, Jack couldn't sleep. He paced in his quarters, reviewing everything they had learned so far. Susan entered after knocking softly. "We have a problem," she said without preamble. "I managed to access some restricted communications. You need to see this." She placed a small device on the table that projected images of different worlds. Some were clearly devastated. Cities in ruins, oceans boiling, entire continents scarred. "These are species that resisted Council demands," Susan explained. "The most recent was the Vraxti, 50 years ago. They refused something called the species tribute. Their civilization was bombed back to a pre-industrial state." Jack stared at the images in horror. "And no one stopped this?" "The Council controls all significant military power in this sector of the galaxy. The Zorkath and 3 other dominant species hold all command positions. Sleep was impossible after that." Jack and Susan spent the night preparing for whatever might come the next day. When morning arrived, they dressed in their formal diplomatic attire and headed to the Grand Council chamber. The chamber was enormous, with concentric rings of seats surrounding a central speaking area. Jack noted how the seating arrangement clearly displayed status. Dominant species in the lowest, most privileged ring, with others arranged above based on their standing. The human delegation was directed to stand in the central area. Above them, thousands of representatives watched silently. Jack spotted Vrel among the Kylari delegation, seated near the top rings. High Counselor Zix Tor entered with a procession of senior Zorkath officials. The chamber fell completely silent. "Representatives of Earth," Zix Tor began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "You have been evaluated and observed since first contact. The time has come to formalize your place within the Council order." Jack stepped forward. "We look forward to peaceful cooperation with all species." Several aliens in the upper rings made sounds that the translator indicated were equivalent to bitter laughter. Zix Tor silenced them with a gesture. "Peace is maintained through order," he continued. "Order requires each species to contribute according to their capabilities. Earth has resources valuable to the Council." Susan tensed beside Jack. This was heading exactly where they feared. Therefore, Earth's tribute requirement is established as follows: 30% of all planetary mineral resources, 20% of agricultural output, and 10,000 humans annually for service roles within Council space. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Jack stood frozen, processing what he had just heard. Service roles? He finally managed to ask. Labor, scientific research, military support, and other needs as determined by the Council. Zix Tor explained casually. "This is a standard tribute rate for a species of your development level." Jack felt his face grow hot with anger. "And if Earth refuses this tribute?" The chamber went deathly quiet. Zix Tor's expression hardened. Refusal is not an option presented to member species. The Council's decision is final. After the session ended, Jack and Susan were escorted back to their quarters. They were told a ship would take them back to Earth the next day to assist in implementing tribute collection protocols. As they walked, a small figure hurried past, bumping into Jack. It was Vrel who whispered quickly. The Vraxti refused. Their world burns. Do not let Earth suffer the same fate. In their quarters, Jack paced furiously while Susan checked for surveillance devices. They expect us to agree to slavery, Jack said once Susan indicated it was safe to talk. They're no better than conquerors, Susan nodded grimly. But they have technology centuries beyond ours. Ships that could devastate Earth in hours. We need to get home, Jack said. The world leaders need to know what we're really facing. That night, as their ship departed the Council hub, Jack stood at the viewport again. The magnificent structure now seemed sinister, a glittering web built by predators. What do we do? Susan asked, standing beside him. Jack watched as stars streaked past. We prepare, and we decide if humanity kneels or stands. The United Nations Assembly Hall had never been so full. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered to hear Ambassador Jack Daniels and Colonel Susan Ford deliver their report. Security was tight. No broadcasts were permitted. What would be said in this room would determine the future of humanity. Jack stood at the podium, his face grim. The trip back from the Council hub had been quick but felt endless as he rehearsed how to deliver such terrible news. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, the Galactic Council is not what we hoped. They are not partners or mentors. They are conquerors who expect us to surrender without a fight. A murmur ran through the crowd as Jack explained the tribute demand. 30% of Earth's resources, 10,000 humans per year for service roles, a polite term for slavery. The room grew colder with each detail. This cannot be accepted, said the Secretary General, her voice shaking slightly. But what choice do we have? Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Paul Weber, the European Union representative, stood up. Perhaps we should consider a temporary acceptance while we develop our own capabilities. Many civilizations throughout history have survived by paying tribute to stronger powers, and become slaves in the process, countered General Mary Coleman of the United States Space Force. If we surrender now, we may never get another chance to resist. The debate raged for hours. Fear fought against pride, survival against freedom. Nations that had been enemies now found themselves sharing the same terrible choice. Near evening, a message arrived for Jack. Dr. Alan Wright and Lisa Morgan requested permission to address the assembly. Jack nodded to the Secretary General, who allowed them to enter. Alan looked exhausted but excited. We've been analyzing the alien technology samples, he said, and we've found something important. He displayed holographic images of alien ship components. Their faster-than-light drives depend on a specific crystalline material. We've discovered that this material has an unexpected weakness. Lisa stepped forward. It becomes unstable when exposed to a specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation, one we can generate with modified versions of our current technology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Are you suggesting we could disable their ships? Asked General Coleman. Potentially, Alan replied. They're advanced, but they've grown overconfident. They don't expect resistance because no one has successfully resisted in centuries. Lisa had more to add. I've been analyzing communication patterns between different species. Several of the subjugated races show signs of resentment toward the dominant council species. If Earth were to resist, we might not be alone for long. The mood in the room shifted subtly. Fear remained, but something else appeared alongside it, a dangerous spark of hope. Susan Ford stepped to the podium. Over the past weeks, my team has developed preliminary defense strategies. With Dr. Wright's discovery, I believe we now have options beyond simple surrender. She displayed tactical simulations showing how Earth's existing space forces, enhanced with modified alien technology, might engage council ships. This would be the most dangerous gamble in human history, she admitted. But I believe we have a chance. A small one, but real. And if we fail? Asked Paul Weber. Then we fail as free humans, General Coleman replied. Better that than generations of servitude. The Secretary General called for a vote. It was not unanimous, but the decision was clear. Earth would not submit. Humanity would stand against the Galactic Council. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Old national rivalries were set aside as resources poured into the resistance effort. Military factories worked around the clock. Scientists combined human innovation with what they had learned from alien technology. In orbit, Earth's modest fleet of space vessels underwent rapid modifications. The largest, commanded by Captain Greg Mitchell, was renamed Defiance, a name that reflected humanity's new resolve. Dr. Wright's team developed weapons that could target the alien ship's vulnerable systems. Lisa Morgan established communication with sympathetic members of other species, building a hidden network of potential allies. The Council had given Earth 60 days to prepare its first tribute payment. With each passing day, the alien representatives grew more impatient with human bureaucratic delays. 2 weeks before the deadline, Jack visited the secure underground facility where Earth's leaders had established a command center. Susan met him at the entrance. "How are the preparations?" he asked. "As ready as we'll ever be," she replied. "Most of our defensive systems are in place but hidden from orbital scans. The fleet is stationed behind the moon. If the Council sends ships to enforce their demand, we can surprise them." Jack nodded. "And if they send their entire armada?" Susan's expression turned grim. "Then we give them a fight they'll never forget, even if it's our last." They entered the main control room where screens displayed status reports from around the world. General Coleman approached them. "The Council has moved up their timetable," she said without preamble. "They're sending a delegation tomorrow to begin tribute collection. A fleet of their ships will be in orbit within 24 hours. Jack took a deep breath. "Then it's time. Send the message I prepared. All Council representatives currently on Earth are to gather at the United Nations tomorrow for our formal response." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stood at the window of his apartment, looking at the stars. Somewhere up there, alien ships were approaching, expecting submission. They had no idea what awaited them. His phone beeped with a message from Lisa. "Network ready. Many watching. Not alone." Jack smiled grimly. Even across the stars, the desire for freedom burned in many hearts. Perhaps that would be enough. The next morning, he dressed carefully in his formal diplomatic attire. On his desk lay a single sheet of paper with one word written on it. He had practiced saying it 1,000 times, knowing it might be the most important word ever spoken by a human. As his car approached the United Nations building, he saw the alien ships appearing in the sky. Massive, imposing vessels designed to intimidate. Council representatives from several species waited on the steps, including High Counselor Zixtor himself. Jack took a final deep breath and stepped out of the car. Susan stood nearby, dressed in her military uniform with a small communication device in her ear. "Are we ready?" Jack asked quietly. Susan nodded. "Defense systems activated. Fleet in position. Dr. Wright's countermeasures online." She paused. "Whatever happens next, we face it on our terms." Jack straightened his shoulders and walked toward the waiting aliens, carrying the fate of humanity in a single word. The United Nations Plaza fell silent as Ambassador Jack Daniels approached the alien delegation. Above, the massive council ships hung in the sky like metal mountains, casting long shadows over the city. Their weapons could turn Earth's greatest cities to ash within minutes. High Counselor Zixtor stood tall, his blue skin gleaming in the morning light. Behind him, representatives from other council species watched with various expressions, some eager, others seemingly uncomfortable. "Ambassador Daniels," Zixtor said, his voice amplified for the gathered crowd. "The time for discussion has ended. The Council has determined Earth's tribute requirements. We are here to begin collection." Jack noticed small drones hovering nearby, broadcasting this moment across the galaxy. The Council wanted everyone to see Earth submit, another example of their absolute power. "High Counselor," Jack replied, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I stand before you representing, not just one nation but all of humanity. Susan Ford stood a few paces behind him, her hand near the communication device in her ear. Around the plaza, hidden security forces waited for signals. Behind the moon, Earth's small fleet of ships prepared for battle. We have reviewed your tribute demands carefully, Jack continued. We understand that you expect 30% of our resources and 10,000 humans annually for service roles. Zixtor nodded impatiently. These terms are standard and non-negotiable. Your formal acceptance is a mere formality. Jack could feel the weight of billions of human eyes watching. This moment would be remembered for generations, one way or another. The people of Earth have authorized me to deliver our official response, Jack said. He paused, looking directly at the broadcasting drones. He wanted to make sure his message reached not just the council leaders, but all the subjugated species watching across the stars. No. The single word hung in the air. For a moment, Zixtor seemed confused, as if he couldn't process what he'd heard. Perhaps your translation matrix is malfunctioning, the alien leader said, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. There is no option for refusal. Jack stood his ground. The translation is accurate. Our answer is no. Earth will not pay tribute. We will not surrender our resources. We will not send our people into servitude. Humanity refuses your demands. Shock rippled through the alien delegation. Some looked horrified, others intrigued. One of the fox-like Kailari representatives, not Vrel but another of his kind, actually smiled briefly before hiding the expression. Zixtor's face darkened to a deeper blue. Do you understand what you are doing? The consequences of defiance are severe. The Vraxti refused and now they live in ruins. Is that the fate you choose for Earth? We choose freedom, Jack said simply. Whatever the cost. The High Counselor raised all four of his arms, signaling to the ships above. Then you have chosen extinction. Our ships will target your major population centers first. You have one final chance to reconsider. Jack didn't flinch. Our answer remains the same. Zixtor turned to his communication device. Begin weapons. Charging sequence. Target their largest cities first. Susan touched her earpiece, quietly speaking. Now. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The council ships began to glow as their weapon systems powered up. Zixtor smiled cruelly, clearly believing Earth's defiance was just foolish bravado. Then one of his aides rushed forward, speaking urgently in their native language. The translation came through Jack's earpiece. Counselor, something is wrong. Our systems are experiencing interference. Zixtor snarled. Impossible. These primitives can't. He was interrupted by a brilliant flash of light from orbit. Hidden defense platforms, built using modified alien technology and placed in orbit, over the past weeks had activated. Beams of energy struck the council ships, not damaging them severely but disrupting their weapon systems. What is this? Zixtor demanded, his composure cracking for the first time. Jack smiled. Just a demonstration. We're not as primitive as you thought. Above them, the moon seemed to shimmer as Earth's fleet emerged from hiding. The ships were small compared to the council vessels, but they moved quickly, targeting specific weak points with precision. Lisa Morgan's voice came through Susan's earpiece. The network is active. 12 subjugated species are reporting, Council. Unrest in their systems. The Kilari have already taken control of 3 minor council facilities. The High Counselor was shouting into his communication device, demanding reports from his fleet. The other council representatives began backing away, suddenly unsure of their safety. This is madness, Zixtor hissed at Jack. You cannot hope to defeat the full might of the council. What you see here is a tiny fraction of our power. Perhaps, Jack acknowledged. But today, that fraction is all that matters. And you should... No, we're not fighting alone. As if on cue, 3 of the council ships suddenly changed their attack pattern, turning their weapons on other council vessels. The communication channels filled with chatter as hidden resistance members among the crews revealed themselves. Zixtor stared in disbelief. Impossible. In orbit, the battle intensified. Earth's ships moved in formations no alien tactician had anticipated, executing maneuvers that seemed reckless but proved effective. Captain Greg Mitchell's voice boomed through the command channels. All units press the advantage. The Defiance will take point on the flagship. On the ground, Jack faced the increasingly agitated High Counselor. You've ruled through fear for too long. You believed no one would dare stand against you. You were wrong. Susan stepped forward, her hand now openly on her sidearm. Your ships are disabled, Counselor. Your weapons are offline. I suggest you consider your position carefully. One of the Council ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light, not from weapons fire, but from within. Dr. Wright's technology had caused a catastrophic reaction in their drive systems. This cannot be happening, Sixtor said, his voice now tinged with fear. You are just one primitive species. You cannot defy the order of the galaxy. Jack looked up as another Council ship began drifting, its systems failing. Yet here we are. The plaza erupted in chaos as Earth security forces moved to secure the alien representatives. Most surrendered immediately, seeing their position was hopeless. Only Zixtor and his personal guards resisted, drawing weapons. Stop, Jack called out as human forces prepared to fire. There's been enough destruction. This can end now, Counselor. For a tense moment, it seemed Zixtor might choose death over surrender. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. The Council will not forget this, he warned. This is merely one battle. No, Jack replied. This is a revolution. Above them, the remaining Council ships were surrounded by Earth vessels and the ships of their new allies. Captain Mitchell's voice came through Susan's communicator. Their flagship is standing down. Repeat, their flagship is standing down. A cheer went up from the humans gathered around the plaza. Jack looked at Susan, both of them barely able to believe what was happening. It's just the beginning, Susan said quietly. The real fight is still to come. Jack nodded, watching as the Council representatives were taken into custody. But for the first time in centuries, it's a fight with hope. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in stunned silence as humanity did what no species had dared. In living memory, they said no to the Council and survived. 1 year had passed since Earth said no. The galaxy was still adjusting to the shockwaves from that single word. Jack Daniels stood on the observation deck of the newly built Earth Embassy on the former Council hub. The massive space station had been renamed Unity Station after the fall of the old regime. Representatives from 32 species now lived and worked here, building something the galaxy had never seen before, a true cooperative of equals. Amazing view, isn't it? Susan Ford joined him at the viewport. She wore a new uniform now, with insignia marking her as commander of the United Earth Defense Force. I still can't believe we're here, Jack admitted. Sometimes I wake up thinking it was all a dream. The battle that began over Earth had spread quickly across Council space. Once humanity showed resistance was possible, dozens of subjugated species rose up against their oppressors. The Kilari led the charge, with Vrel emerging as a key revolutionary leader. The Jexar, with their crystalline technology, joined next. Within months, the Council's carefully structured hierarchy collapsed. It hadn't been easy. The dominant species fought back fiercely. Several worlds suffered damage in the conflict. But the Council's rigid military tactics proved no match for the combined creativity and determination of the formerly oppressed. Ambassador, they're ready for you in the assembly hall, said Jack's assistant from the doorway. Jack nodded. I'll be right there. Today marked the formal signing of the Galactic Cooperative Charter. After months of negotiation, the free species had agreed on a new way forward. No more tributes. No more servitude. Every world would have equal representation. As Jack walked toward the assembly hall, he passed beings of all shapes and sizes. Many nodded respectfully. Earth had become a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy, and humans were welcomed almost everywhere. Dr. Alan Wright was waiting outside the hall, deep in conversation with a group of alien scientists. His work on drive system technology had led to breakthrough collaborations across species. Jack. Just in time, Alan called out. We've just solved the radiation problem in the new transport ships. They'll be twice as fast as anything the old council had. Good work, Jack replied. Will you join us for the ceremony? Alan shook his head. Too much science to do. Lisa is inside, though. She wouldn't miss it. The assembly hall was packed. Nearly 1,000 representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to witness this historic moment. At the center of the room stood a circular table with chairs for the signing delegates. Lisa Morgan waved from her seat near the front. Since the revolution, her communication expertise had made her invaluable in building understanding between species. She had created new translation systems that preserved cultural nuances previously lost. The translators are working perfectly, she told Jack as he approached. Everyone will hear the ceremony in their native language, with full emotional context preserved. Jack took his place at the signing table. Around him sat representatives from the other major worlds involved in drafting the charter. Vrel represented the Kailari, his once nervous demeanor replaced with quiet confidence. A historic day, Ambassador Daniels, Vrel said, extending a clawed hand in the human gesture of handshaking that had become popular across species. One I never thought I'd live to see, Jack replied, shaking the offered hand. The assembly quieted as the ceremony began. The new cooperative leader, elected from the Jexar species, rose to speak. 1 year ago, the galaxy changed forever. The crystalline being's voice resonated through the hall. A species we had just discovered did something unprecedented. They refused to accept the old order. They said no. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. That single word revealed what many of us had forgotten, that freedom is not given, but claimed. That cooperation is stronger than domination, that together we can build something greater than the sum of our parts. Jack listened, still amazed by how far they had come. Earth's defiance had cost lives, but it had saved countless more from generations of servitude. Captain Greg Mitchell sat nearby, now Admiral of Earth's growing fleet. His ship, the Defiance, had become legendary after leading the liberation of 3 oppressed worlds. He caught Jack's eye and nodded respectfully. Today, we signed the Galactic Cooperative Charter, the leader continued. Each world equal, each species free to develop according to their own values, while contributing to our shared future among the stars. One by one, the representatives approached the table to sign. When Jack's turn came, he felt the weight of billions of humans behind him. He signed with steady hands, then stepped back as applause filled the hall. After the ceremony, many gathered for a celebration. Jack found himself sharing drinks with representatives from a dozen worlds. Stories were exchanged, plans discussed, and bridges built between cultures that had barely known of each other's existence 2 years ago. To freedom, Vrel proposed a toast, raising his glass. To cooperation, added the Jexar representative. To the future, Jack finished, and they all drank. Later that evening, Jack returned to the observation deck. Earth was not visible from this distance, but he knew it was there, forever changed by contact with the stars. Human technology had advanced decades in a single year. Earth culture had been enriched by exchange with alien arts and philosophies, and humanity's spirit had been strengthened by knowing they were not alone in valuing freedom. Susan joined him, again carrying a data tablet. Just received word from the exploration fleet. They've made contact with a previously unknown species in the Sagittarius Arm. Pre-spaceflight civilization, showing promising development. Are they sending a first contact team? Jack asked. Susan nodded. They've requested you lead it once your duties here allow. Jack smiled at the irony. Earth, so recently the newest species in galactic society, was now helping to welcome others. What do you think? Susan asked. Ready to be on the other side of first contact? Jack thought about all they had learned, all they had fought for, and all they could share with a young civilization finding its way to the stars. I think we have quite a story to tell them, he said. As they stood looking out at the stars, a small transport ship docked at the station. From it emerged representatives of another newly liberated world, coming to join the cooperative. Jack watched as they took their first steps into a galaxy transformed by courage and hope. Somewhere in the distance, the former High Counselor Zixtor sat in a rehabilitation facility, still struggling to understand how his perfect system had collapsed so quickly. He couldn't comprehend how everything had changed because of a single word. But Jack understood. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or weapons or even numbers. Sometimes it's simply the courage to say no when the galaxy expects you to say yes, and from that one word a new future had been born.